Hi, my name is ALYAA NADIAH, and in this video I will be talking about nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication involves conveying messages without words and include various aspects like closing and timing. Understanding these nonverbal signals is crucial for effective communication with others, from colleagues to loved ones. There are three categories of nonverbal communication, which are sign language, which is a visual form of communication that uses gestures and movements to convey meaning. Action language, which uses physical actions or behavior to convey messages. And lastly, object language, which uses physical objects to communicate messages. Next, we'll talk about the process of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a three-step process, which is cue, expectation, and inference. First, we will notice a wordless cue. For example, you drive at work and see a coworker who seems down. Next is expectation. If a coworker who is usually cheerful seems down, this will contradict what we expect. Finally is inference. Based on the cue and our expectations, we can conclude a conversation even without direct verbal communication. Researchers has highlighted that people often misinterpret nonverbal cues in communication, leading to incorrect judgment of others' character. While we can generally read basic emotions from facial expression, many individuals overestimate their ability to assess more subtle traits like motivation or personality. We will now talk about the function of nonverbal communication. There are 6 major functions of nonverbal communication in our lives. The first function is accenting. Nonverbal cues can highlight parts of our verbal communication. For example, a raised eyebrow can emphasize surprise. Our next function is complementing. Nonverbal communication reinforces the tone of our words. A slumped posture and downcast expression might match words of discouragement, while an upright posture and smile can enhance a positive one. Our next function is contradicting. Contradicting occurs when nonverbal cues clash with verbal message. For example, tears might contradict a statement like, "I'm doing well." Our fourth function is regulating. Nonverbal cues help manage the flow of conversation. Facing someone and making eye contact invites them to speak, while turning slightly away signals that you want to pause. Our next function is repeating. Repeating happens when nonverbal cues echo verbal messages. For instance, holding car keys while saying you're leaving reinforces your intentions. And our final function is substituting, which means nonverbal cues can replace words. A quick thumbs up can convey encouragement without needing to shout from across a noisy crowd. We will now be moving on to the principle of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication have been identified with 6 different principles, which are: nonverbal communication occurs in a context, nonverbal behavior are usually packaged, nonverbal behavior always communicates, nonverbal behavior is governed by rules, nonverbal behavior is highly believable, and lastly, nonverbal behavior is meta-communicational. Now we will talk about the dimension of nonverbal code. Nonverbal communication involves codes we use to convey messages without words. Nonverbal often requires interpretation without immediate feedback. There are many dimensions of nonverbal communication. Some nonverbal cues have limited meaning, while others can express a wide range of subtle intentions. Here is a list of dimensions: environment, body movement, eye contact, physical appearance, artifacts, touch, paralanguage, space, time, color, smell, taste, sound, and lastly, silence. Lastly, we will talk about the effects of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal cues are often difficult to read. Cues are often difficult to read due to the fact that gestures, facial expression, and body language can differ among individuals. Nonverbal cues are often difficult to interpret. This is also caused by the previous reason, which is that gestures, facial expression, and body language can differ among individuals. Nonverbal behaviors are often contradictory. This effect happens when nonverbal cues conflict with verbal messages. Some nonverbal cues are more important than others. The visual sense is dominated for most people, which is why some cues are more important than others. We often read into some cues that isn't there and fail to read some cues that are clearly present. Some people struggle to identify certain cues and social interactions overall. We're not as skilled at reading nonverbal cues as we think we are. Our confidence often exceeds our ability. When reading about nonverbal cues, people are often confident in their abilities to read them perfectly, but this often falls true due to the fact that nonverbal communication is much more profound. That will be all from me. Thank you for your attention.